billion people and a combined gross domestic product of more than $3.4 trillion.
Well, that's right. That was at the 18th ordinary session of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government. It took place in January 2012 in Addis Ababa.
Now, the Economic Commission for Africa estimates that the treaty has the potential to boost inter-African trade by 52.3% by eliminating import duties and to double this trade if non-tariff barriers are also reduced.
Now, the CFTA, that's the Continental Free Trade Area, has the objective of creating a single continental market for goods and services with free movement of business persons and investments to pave way for accelerating the establishment of the Continental Customs Union and ultimately the African Customs Union.
Now, after several years, the draft agreement was finally signed on March 21, 2018, during the 18th extraordinary session of the Assembly of AU Heads of State and Governments in Kigali, Rwanda.
Some 44 of the 55 African countries signed the treaty. 9 others, including Nigeria, did not sign. Nigeria said it was delaying its accession to the agreement in order to enable it widen and deepen domestic consultations to ensure that all concerns were addressed, as it would not endorse an agreement that would not fairly and equitably represent the interests of Nigeria and indeed African neighbors.
Well, there seems to be a change of mind now, as Nigeria seems to be getting ready to sign based on the meeting Vice President Yemi Osinbajo had with stakeholders last week.
All right, so one question to ask is, why is Nigeria now considering its accession to the treaty? And have the fears or concerns expressed initially by stakeholders been overcome? And how can the treaty enhance or stifle Nigeria's economic growth? And what happens if Nigeria eventually endorses the treaty just like others?
Many questions being thrown up here. So these and many other questions which I'll be posing to our guests in the course of the program. And also today, like we told you, we shall be discussing the Great Green Wall as a documentary on it is being unfolded. That's our outlook on the program today. It's a bumper one. Thanks for joining us as usual on this midweek edition of Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA. I am Sheung Olagunju.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Sheung in also welcoming you to the program, in the course of which we shall have our regular complimentary segments, and these include business, newspaper review, sports forum, and entertainment. In the meantime, let's take the highlights of the morning news with our colleague Tessie Bisong. Hi, Tessie.
Hi, Kingsley and Sheung. Good morning. Good morning, Nigeria, and here's the news. Senate adjourns plenary to 25th of September 2018 for its annual recess. Before the adjournment, Senator Dino Melaye said 14 members had defected from the APC to the PDP. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has written to the Senate requesting the confirmation of the chairman and members of the board of the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission.
Disagreements do not translate into factionalization. I will urge, Mr. President, that announcement be quarantined.
We had a situation where the Deputy Senate President could not come here. I was already going somewhere else. This place would not have been able to hold today. For that reason, I had to come here.
House leader Femi Gbajabiamila says APC remains the majority despite defection of some members to opposition parties. Addressing newsmen on the sideline of Tuesday plenary, the House leader questions the legality of the defection, which he says is against Section 68 of the 1999 Constitution. Earlier during plenary, Speaker Yakubu Dogara announced the communication of some 36 members of APC who have defected to opposition parties, while one APC member announced resignation from the party.
We, the members of the House of Representatives, sponsored by the All Progressive Congress, APC, wish to notify you of the change of our political party from APC to the People's Democratic Party. And I will read out the name of the members. There are 32. We, the members of the House of Representatives, sponsored by the All Progressive Congress, APC, wish to notify you of the change of our political party from APC to the African Democratic Congress, ADC.
I want to say that I, Honorable Kejev, came here on the ticket of the APC. I'm sadly resigning my membership of the party.
That it is in Nigeria today, it is not the person that is elected, but it is the party that people elect.
No sooner had we formed the government in May 2015 that the party set itself on a course to derail itself. And that derailment continued up until today.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed his total commitment to values of democracy, freedom of choice, as well as total willingness to work with all members of the National Assembly, irrespective of their political party, for the benefit of the nation. In his reaction to the development Tuesday morning at the National Assembly, the president noted that none of the defecting federal lawmakers of the All Progressive Congress APC had any specific grievances against him or the government he leads. Neither did he harbor anything against any of them. In a statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, indicates that President Buhari assured members of the APC of his total support and urged party faithful not to despair, but to see the defectors as a seasonal occurrence that happens on election eve. He expressed confidence that no harm or injury will be done to the party and its aspirations by the movement. President Buhari wished all the decamped members the best in their future undertakings. The national chairman of the APC, Adams Oshiomhole, has formally reacted to the reported defection of National Assembly members from the party, insisting that mercenary activities can never make him lose any sleep. Speaking to journalists after an audience with President Muhammadu Buhari, Mr. Oshiomhole said the business of governance can never be driven by personal interest, rather men and women of honor.
I'm privileged to chair. Is not worried at all. We are not disturbed. I'm not going to miss my sleep. And we will go in for the campaign. Check the electoral result. You will find that a lot of those who claim to have the camp, on a good day, the vote they got that makes them members of the Senate. Our president got much more vote in their constituency. So we are not fooled at all. You know, the thing going on is that, you have a lot of so-called big masquerades with very little or no electoral value. I've done my best, which I think I needed to do, to give people comfort, if those who claim to be aggrieved, but those who have other hidden agenda that are not negotiable. I am not going to be able to appeal to anyone who expected X level of return and the system is not delivering it in terms of personal returns. I can't solve that. But those who felt that in terms of within the management of the party, they have issues, those ones are on the table, they can be dealt with. But those who have issues under the table, they are beyond me. But let me assure you, I am so happy that over time, water will find its level.
The APC national chairman says a progressive party like the APC is not for everyone, but those who subscribe to its values and ideals.
You mistakenly find yourself in a progressive party. Obviously, that is not where you belong. As soon as you realize that you can't adjust to the requirement of progressive party, which is people-driven, people-based, people-oriented, and you choose to return to the right wing, where you know what the name of the game was, share the money. It's your choice. But I need to remind you, I am not a poor student of struggle. I am not a professor of struggle. I am a product of struggle. So I know what I'm talking about. Very soon, Nigerians will go to the polls, and we will see who will deliver what in his constituency.
Mr. Oshiomhole also spoke on the commencement of recess by the National Assembly ahead of schedule.
Business of the Senate and or the National Assembly is not to legislate for the good governance of APC. It is to legislate for the good governance of Nigeria. If people have chosen that it is more politically convenient to suspend the process of legislation ahead of time because it's not convenient for their political interests and choose to subordinate the Nigerian national interest for that purpose. It is their choice. If there are implications, it is for the Nigerian nation, not for APC.
And away from political matters, Nigeria and the Republic of Niger have signed a memorandum of understanding on hydrocarbon pipelines and refinery projects aimed at creating a more favorable investment opportunity in the downstream sector, as well as enhancing cross-border economic development. At the ceremony witnessed by President Muhammadu Buhari and his Nigerian counterpart, technical and steering committees for the project were also inaugurated.
From the Republic of Niger and construction of refinery facilities in Katsina State as a win-win for both nations. The initiative will not only provide a reliable market for the stranded crude from Niger Republic, but will also provide petroleum products for Nigeria as it aggressively pursues its aspiration on petroleum product self-sufficiency.
It is also necessary to say that it will strengthen the political, economic links as well as socio-cultural links which our countries have undertaken to develop. Let us therefore commit ourselves to this enterprise, and may God bless our two people and our two countries.
And that's it on the news. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Sheon and Kinsley after this break. Good morning.
Thanks for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria. Time to talk business. Federal government empowers more youth under the Youth Employment and Social Support Operation YESO in a bid to tackle unemployment and ensure inclusive economic growth. For details of these and more, let's join Joy Uzo for details.
The National Safety Net program of the federal government under the Youth Employment and Social Support Operation YESO have empowered over 7,000 unemployed youths across 8 states in the country. This is through the Skills for Job initiative of the program aimed at bridging the gap of unemployment through partnership with the states. The acting national coordinator of YESO, Mrs. Ajira Sami, pointed out that the 7-year program is expected to cover the 36 states of the nation, targeting the extremely poor in the society by giving them skills and other educational value on how to improve themselves.
And another intervention or support being given by YESO is the targeted grant transfer, which is exclusive for the Northeast.
National Coordinator NASCO, Mr. Yowa Akpera, said the program was positioned to achieve the federal government's efforts of having an inclusive government through its social investment programs. He made this known at the 2018 quarterly meeting of the organization.
But I think what is actually perhaps holding them back is the urgent need for the states, the participating states, to contribute their counterpart funding.
Meanwhile, the federal government has expressed its resolve to create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive in the country. This was at a roundtable on rethinking business conduct and practices in Abuja. Vice President Yemi Oshibajo expressed the federal government's determination to evolve measures and techniques to promote domestic and foreign investment towards creating employment and stimulating national economy, as well as promoting transparency and efficiency to transform Nigeria's business ecosystem.
With further and more in-depth interrogation of the integrity bond concept, I have no doubt that it will improve transparency in government procurement process and can become a worthy tool in the fight against corruption.
Next is a graphic representation of the capital market performance for Tuesday, July 24. And on that note, we'll wrap up business news. Many thanks for watching. I am Joy Uzo.
Thank you very much, Joy Uzo, there for the business package. Next for us now, we'll take a look at the front pages of some of today's newspapers in our review session.
Bayo is unable to join us this morning, but we will take the headlines from the front pages of the newspapers. And I begin with Daily Independent. PDP takes over Senate. 37 reps defect to PDP ADC. That's the main headline on the front page of the Daily Independent. It has a number of riders. 13 APC senators move to PDP. Chamber adjourns plenary to September 26. Go to court if you are aggrieved. Dogara. RAPC hails National Assembly members over defection. No grudges against defectors, says Buhari. APC urges members to remain calm. Defectors not relevant, says Oshiomhole, that's the national chairman of the APC. And above the masthead of the Daily Independent, Benue Assembly impeaches Speaker, others. Condemnation trails Eagles coach alleged bribe scandal. And below there were picture stories on the front page of the Daily Independent. Siege to Saraki Ekweremadu's homes illegal. Lawyers. The riders action dangerous primitive can. Atiku Secondus Makarfi Nwodo. Police insist Saraki must honor invitation. Buhari not party to IGP Saraki face-off. That's according to the presidency. And last headline I'll take there, Fayemi raises 32-member transition committee. That's it from the Daily Independent. Kingsley?
All right, Sharon, obviously, I mean, any paper that doesn't have as its lead story the developments in the National Assembly yesterday would have missed that. So the Nigerian Tribune also has the defection from the National Assembly as its lead story, and it comes with a kicker. As 14 senators and 37 representatives dump APC, PDP expecting more defectors as APC claims majority in Senate and House of Reps. The stories can be found in greater detail on pages 2, 3, and 4. Now, here are some of the riders. Buhari, Oshiomhole talked tough, say defections won't harm APC. Drama as Saraki outweighs security. And rousing welcome for Dogara as he arrives in National Assembly. Saraki must honor its invitation on offer robbery. That's according to the police. And then you see the photographs there of some of the senators who defected yesterday from the APC with the caption, "Those APC lost in the Senate." There are more details, of course, you will find inside the paper. And then above the lead story and just below the nameplate of the Nigerian Tribune, there's a special analysis there. 8th National Assembly sprinting to yesterday to take tomorrow. The analysis jumps to page 2 of the Tribune. Now, other headlines from the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. Senate receives petition to reject Banire as AMCON chairman. AMCON stands for the Assets Management Company of Nigeria. And Oshiomhole should be versed in basic issues that guide public governance. That's according to Ngige. Ngige is Minister of Labor and Employment. And details of that story can be found on page 6. It's a running copy on the inauguration of some of the boards of the parastatals under the Ministry of Labor and Employment. Fayemi constitutes Transition Committee as Olushola alleges INEC frustrating his case. Olushola is the outgoing deputy governor of the state, and they lost the election on July the 14th.
Yes, the leadership is next here with me, and below the nameplate of the leadership, Nigeria and Niger Republic sign MOU on $2 billion refinery project. NCAA warns airlines on flight delays, cancellations. I guess that's because of the weather situation. And the main headline, of course, like Kingsley said, the trending issue. Now, defections. APC maintains majority in National Assembly. With riders, SANs knock lawmakers over defections, say they are glorifying illegality. I wish them well, PMB. That's President Muhammadu Buhari. The Campis have little electoral value, says ruling party. PDP assures the Campis of equal treatment. And the financial story there, CBN to incentivize banks on single-digit lending to private sector. And below the picture story on the front page of the leadership, federal government not paying $300 million for 5% stake in Nigeria Air. That's according to Sirika. Benue Assembly impeaches Speaker. Federal government to publishers, don't lend your platforms to fake news. And State Police Bill passes second reading at the House of Representatives.
All right, now to the Nigerian pilot, as we indicated, it's also the lead story, comes 2019 election. And then you have the riders as well as the photographs of some of the decampees yesterday. The defectors, real reasons they left APC. Details can be found on page 7 of the paper. You also have some details on page 4. Now, immediately the nameplate of the Nigerian pilot is a headline: Erosion sacks 250 Anambra families as community calls for urgent rescue. And then NSITF contract award, you have the face-off there continuing between Ngige and Oshomole. Oshomole is party chair of the APC. Now, right at the foot of the front page of the Nigerian pilot, let's take some of those headlines. Aregbesola, that's governor of Osun State, in fresh trouble as pensioners begin 3-day protests. And CSOs shut down National Assembly over alleged misappropriation of cattle ranch funds. EFCC invites Ekweremadu over alleged money laundering. And PDP now in majority in Senate and House of Representatives. And by the way, Shimon, that's being disputed. Yeah, because the APC majority leader in the Senate is saying that the APC still has a majority. 22 of 30 Benue Assembly members impeached Speaker and others. So those are the headlines that we have. Incidentally, the issue of defection is one of the topics that we have for discussion this morning. So we'll be going to that. We'll skip the matters arising from that for our guests to deal with in the course of that. But let's take a look at the editorial, which is from the Authority newspaper, and it's at page 8. The editorial says, "Are Nigerians the poorest people in the world?" Well, the editorial is based on the recent findings by the Brookings Institution. That's a non-profit public policy organization, which indicated that Nigeria has overtaken India in the poverty index. Now, the editorial indicates also that the Minister of Trade and Industry has argued that the indices used for the report may have been compiled when Nigeria was in recession and advised Nigerians not to take the report seriously, alluding that it was erroneous. The editorial, however, adds that the criteria used in the ranking of nations, the sampling format, and other statistical requirements that should give a complete picture of the report did not indicate the general ranking of all the nations, and that if what is presented in the Nigerian media is anything to go by, then additional clarification is required. But it adds that if the people of this country are living fine, it doesn't require a foreign report to tell.
Kingsley, this is actually one of the reports we wish is actually not true. That's the much we can take on newspaper headlines. Please stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
All right, well, welcome back. But if you just tuned in, it's Good Morning Nigeria. We are reaching you live for the network service of Africa's largest television network, the Nigerian Television Authority. Yesterday witnessed the defection of 14 senators and 37 members of the House of Representatives from the governing APC to other political parties, mainly the opposition PDP. Now, the development has been generating diverse reactions. Joining us in the studios to discuss the development, we have two guests. First, we'd like to welcome Senator Ita Enang. Ita Enang is the Senior Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly Matters Senate. Distinguished Senator, pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigerians.
All right. Also here with us is Dr. Sharif Gali. He's of the Department of Political Science and International Relations at the University of Abuja. Dr. Gali, pleasure that you're with us again on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's begin with distinguished Senator Ita Enang. You're a veteran of the National Assembly until the recent appointment, of course, beginning with the 8th Assembly that you've been Senior Special Assistant to the President. Some are saying this is deja vu, that we're back again, as it were, to 2014, that is the season of political migration. But how significant is what happened yesterday in the National Assembly, the twin defection in the House as well as the Senate?
Well, this is, I'm glad you started answering the questions because you say it is a season of defections. You always have defections when either there is a convention or congresses of the political parties and either a person loses out or there is a zoning situation that doesn't favor him. And of course, there is an approach to elections. This other one, it is first approach to elections, second approach to elections, then second immediate post-reaction to result of congresses and conventions. But then the situation is a little illegal because there is very serious constitutional challenge to what they have done in constitutional and procedural. But one thing is very important. The most important thing is that none of these persons defecting, the distinguished senators or members of the House, is alleging any ill action on the part of the federal government, on the part of President Buhari, on the part of his policies, and so on. All of them are saying or are relying on the challenges they have in their local, in their states, either with their governors or with the leaders of their political party in the states, or with zoning in their own senatorial district, or other reason of political marginalization. And in fact, about a great majority of them whom I interacted pre to defection and post defection have admitted that, look, they will campaign for President Buhari wherever political parties they go to, and where they will still campaign even if they don't contest election, that they don't have problem with the president, but that it is either with their governor or with the way the congresses or convention were conducted, or some other challenge that is not, that has nothing to do with the president. That is why you heard after investigation and finding out that nothing that the president has done, nothing that the federal government has done, nothing that any of the federal policies has affected them. They said, look, we have no problem with the All Progressive Congress and the president's 2019 return election, second term, that we are all trying to protect our own domestics. Again, how significant it is, yeah.
Rendering this as though you were the spokespersons for the defectors. Did they indicate all of the things that you are saying? Because some of them claim that they will have disagreements with the party itself, not necessarily with the president. They say, look, at least our APC said they have gone to court, challenging what happened at the convention.
Well, our APC can only challenge what happened at the convention if they were party to the convention, one. Two, you cannot, our APC does not exist because you can only exist as a faction or a division in a party if there is an along the line division of the national executive of the party down the line to the state executive of the party and down. And it is not if you are a member of the party and you are aggrieved by anything, after the convention, weeks after, then you now come to say you are not happy. And let me also say that the RAPC was formed as a foundation, seeking to lay foundation for defection, because the distinguished senators and honorable members of the National Senate, House of Representatives, Houses of Assembly, and even the intending governors know that they cannot defect without losing their seat under Section 68(1)(g) of the Constitution, because the seat belongs to the political party. So they tried this, trying to be a little ingenious, but too little too late in forming RAPC. And there is no RAPC. I'm not a spokesperson for the defectors, but I am a member of the party. I, as the liaison officer, have been relating very seriously with the defectors. I related with them up till 4 a.m. of the day of defection, and immediately before all the announcements. I've been relating with them. They even gave me assurances that, look, we have no problem with the APC at the national level. They don't have with the national level of the party, but they have it at local level of the states and local government and the structure of the party.
We'll be back to some of those issues we raised. But let's go to Dr. Gali. Let's have your reaction to these mass defections that happened yesterday.
You see, defection is rather inherent in every political environment. I foresaw this particular defection for long. In this particular room, I once mentioned that, because all political parties usually develop through this particular process of defection and factionalization. The issue of APC, when it emerged, we did not see a political party having a kind of general or equal interest among the politicians, because the politicians matched together with a common interest. That particular common interest was to depose and shop the previous incumbent government, which they alleged was really unconstitutional, impositional, in trying to impose leadership on them. Now they come to APC, match together, even though they belong to divergent political interests. So belonging to APC is rather natural that there is going to be disagreement. And once this particular disagreement emanates, then definitely it may lead to factionalization as well as defection, which is what we just saw that occurred yesterday. So therefore, it's not new. It's not also surprising, because members of the APC, even now we have some, because it's a thin line between life and death. More might really leave the party, and more may come to the party. So it's rather inherent in a political development.
Well, there's also been this suggestion that the defections that we are seeing now on the eve of the 2019 election ultimately has to do with ticket hunting. That some of the defectors, on account of the disagreements they are having in their respective constituencies, are unsure of getting the ticket to return to their current positions. Is the ticket so lucrative? Is it a lucrative ticket that would warrant, forum shopping, as it were?
Yes, of course, I will agree, with this particular assertion, because they think that if they continue to really let's say, romance with the APC as a political party, definitely they will lose their own ticket. This is just one reason. Then we have other variables that explain this particular political trend. Another issue is that I belong to a political party, but I continued to be embarrassed, a kind of. Remember, Saraki is having an issue. Do you know Malai is also having an issue? The police, issues. So therefore, they think that they belong to a political party and occupying, a fundamental, an important seat, Senate president, every day appearing before the court, subjected to police invitations and the rest of them. So I don't know what my political future will be. Let me find a way out. So I think this is also a contributing factor. But I also believe that
Saraki himself hasn't defected.
Yeah, he did not, but I think he made the announcement, and we can as well embrace the fact that even though he hasn't yet followed the suit, but we also expect him to do that, even though he has not done it now. It's just a matter of time and space. So what I was trying to point out is that with this particular processes, the government of APC has been trying to maintain rule of law. Trying to maintain rule of law in the sense that making sure that nobody is above the law, regardless of his own position. But everything has a price. Whatever you do has a price. Then this made these particular defective members to see as if they have been marginalized. Hitherto considered to be members of another different political party, but now they are being hunted. They feel hunted, and that is why we regard it as one of the gravitating forces that really made them to defect and move out of the APC. But the government deemed doing the right thing, making sure that laws and orders, constitutionalism are maintained. Strict adherence to the rules of law. And that is what really culminates into this particular trend.
Thank you, Dr. Gali. Now, Senator Enanga, I'll come back to you. One begins to wonder where the place of ideology is in all of this when you belong to a party and then the slightest opportunity that you feel that your interests are not being met, you go to another party. We keep seeing this over and over again. And then there's another issue you mentioned earlier about some of the defectors saying that they are still supporting the president. It's just that they have issues with their local party. Yeah. Now, one will begin to wonder that democracy and party politics especially is a game of numbers. Yeah. At the local level, the grassroots level, if they are not contributing the numbers the party needs, would that not affect the party nationally?
I don't think it will. And there is a great difference between the defection that occurred in 2014 under the General Administration and this particular one. Under the Jonathan administration, it was a great disagreement between the presidency, the president, the governors forum, then the fact of saying, look, Jonathan should not contest because he was doing his second term at that time and he wasn't entitled to do a third term, quote unquote. Now, and so the president was at the center of it. Now, this other one is so the president and the presidency and the president's second term bid is insulated from it. Now, because the issues are, like we've said, all of us have said, is local. Now, the question of ideology is a little, it ought to be, but it's a lot far-fetched. It's a lot far away from perhaps the Nigerian political system, because you rarely can see a party you say is far left, is far right, is center. You know, you really can see somebody saying, look, I am in this political party because I believe in this. There are very few, they are there, but there are very few. You can have the PRP elements and so on. They were strictly ideological. But as of today, you find that generation almost shifting away. You find that somebody knows that he is PDP. The other one is APC. Now, as of today, you find much struggle in the APC because APC's ticket is a highly priced potential winning ticket. And if you are in APC and it looks like you are no more in the good books of the party at home, or there is some situation in your senatorial district or something that is getting you out of favor, then sometimes you may feel that instead of not being able to contest the election and losing the nomination at that stage, with struggling for a priced ticket, let me go for a less priced ticket. Let me see whether some sentiment arising on ground of this or that can make me win. Or let it be that I did not lose at the point of nomination, that I lost having had a less priced ticket, but I was on the ballot contesting the election. So these are the questions that we will want to find. And if you go into particulars of the situation, you get to Benue State, you'll find that the parts of the people don't have problem with the president and party at the federal level. There is a question of zoning. You go to some areas, there are some senators who've done second term, are wanting to do third term. There are those who have done 3 terms, and they want to go a 4th term. Then the political mechanics, the political system in their area is throwing up sentiment rising on the ground. And there are those who are from a minority section in the political geography, in the politics of the area, you know, and then they find that they will not be able to come back. So they rather go to other areas. There are those, again, whom the governors of their state are finishing their second term, and they are definitely going to the Senate, and they believe that if as sitting senator, they may not be able to contest and win nomination against the governor whom he comes, and so they go for a less priced ticket. So these are all the issues about these defections.
The distinguished Senator Itaenag, still with you, there were voices in the APC that cautioned against the conduct of the World State Congresses and ultimately the convention, because they argued that managing the fallout might be quite challenging. And we saw what happened in the course of the congresses. There were a number of states where you had parallel congresses, and I think some of the issues are in court. Could the defection that we have seen now not be, as it were, a natural consequence of those disagreements that you have described now as being part of the localized political issues?
Well, I want to say that it is purely and simply, the answer to your question is yes. Yes, in the sense that, in fact, it was His Excellency Mr. President that said, look, it's going to be too tumultuous going into convention so close to election. That was accepted for 2-3 weeks. But some senior advocates of Nigeria, some learned persons, some other persons brought him and brought legal issues that are capable of arising. 1, under the constitution of the party. 2, under the Electoral Act. 3, that if this is, we may get to a situation where the persons who is supposed to sign nomination to file you as senatorial candidate or presidential candidate, his term may have expired. And it would be said that the party had no executive, had no legitimate executive to file nomination, and so the party is not contesting election. And for President Buhari, any superior argument, he will always say, what is the law? What is the right thing? And he now said, look, I'm again convinced that going the routes we are going is going to give us a legal challenge, that let us do the right thing and then face the consequences. And we've done the right thing. We are managing the consequences. And this is one of the things that the defectors, I respect them, they're my friends. I manage the relationship between them and the executive. I work with them. They're my colleagues and brothers and sisters. That's what they're saying. Look, they agree to the status and standing and the honesty of the president in this matter. They don't have problem with him. They will resolve the problems at home, but it was better to go into the convention, manage the consequences thereof, than being afraid of the consequences. Then you get into an illegality which would have made the APC unable to file candidates in the next election.
Dr. Gali, just before we let you go, we've always heard that these defectors should lose their seats. They should lose their seats after this kind of thing because they leave the party in which they are elected, or the platform of which they are elected. Do you foresee this coming? Yeah. And what do we see the 2019 elections in the pipeline?
Well, in the first place, I'm against this particular issue because I think defection should be open. Why? Because if we make it close, meaning the politicians are not entitled to defect, meaning the political system is rather becoming authoritarian or even dictatorial. Why is it? Is because if we have a system, for example, that doesn't work for all, then should we just continue to belong in a place where it's not working? No, we need to make a shift in order to find, a better place. And that is why, in terms of state policy, in terms of political movement, even foreign policy, we sometimes have changes. If you go back to the United States, for example, I give you an example. We used to have a kind of conservative foreign policy, which was really on the basis of the founding fathers' principle, those who really founded the United States of America. What is it? The United States of America will only go to war if the interest of the United States of America is at stake. Then,
please just make an intervention.
No, sorry, please, sorry. I'll come to that. I'll come to that.
Then,
we're pressed for time.
Yeah.
I have 3
Thank you very
topics
much.
This morning.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, we really have
please,
to
please, let me just say that. One, just finally, individuals don't contest election. The seats don't belong to the occupant. It belongs to the political party. And Section 68, subsection 1G says that any person who ceases to become a member of his own political party loses that seat, because I cannot go with this seat belonging to NTA. It belongs to the political party. And if you defect, you must lose your seat unless there is a division. And there's no vision. Thank you very much.
Senator Eta and I, unfortunately, it's on a day that we are having triple topics for conversation. There are matters, of course, that will continually arise on account of the defections that we have seen yesterday. We'd like to thank you, gentlemen. The constitutional provision and the decisions that we have heard from the Supreme Court on this matter is there. Incidentally, yesterday, one senator said he had defected, but he didn't name the party to which he had defected. Yes. That's a clear case of a senator who ordinarily doesn't belong to the Senate as it were right now, because he has no political party. And I hope that he will not earn any salary and allowances until he names a new political party. Gentlemen, we'd like to appreciate you. Probably we'll have to have you back sometime when we're returning to this subject matter. Dr. Sharif Gali, Department of Political Science, Science and International Relations, University of Abuja. Thanks a lot for being around. Senator Itai Nax, Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly Matters, Liaison for the Senate. Always a delight having you. Good morning, Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
All right.
And I will quickly go to our second topic of conversation, Africa Continental Free Trade Area, CFTA. Before we introduce our guests, we'll take this report on stakeholders meeting on the CFTA by our correspondent, Jide Onifade.
One point to note about the administration is the commitment to partner the private sector in decision-making on matters of national importance, especially as it concerns the economy. Here again at the 8th Business Quarterly Forum, which centers on trade and investment, participants are discussing what could be the impediments to Nigeria not being a player in the African Continental Free Trade Area.
Nigeria is encouraged to sign that agreement, and then we will go ahead and look at what the domestic difficulties are that should make us be more competitive.
A trade agreement is very, very important for us. It is very beneficial. But then we're just talking of the timing, and we're also talking of things that need to be done before the agreement is signed.
We have already seen our members of the micro and small enterprise are already doing the cross-border trades. For example, in Maiduguri, we saw where 200 trucks of Nigerian manufactured goods are moving twice a week to the corridor of Niger, Cameroon, South Africa, and up to Sudan. No, Central Africa up to Sudan.
It was our initial fear, dumping. But you'll be surprised if you go to Accra today, you go to Kigali, you go to Yaoundé, rather it is Nigerian goods that are being dumped there. We actually have more productive capacity than those countries.
And we are beginning together with the private sector to fill out the details of the modalities of how the framework agreement would be applied.
And I think the most important of them is the fact that there continues to be evidence of continued engagement with the private sector across all fronts.
Apart from the promise that all necessary infrastructure will be put in place, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says government would ensure that the country's interest would always be protected.
We are committed to supporting investors who themselves have shown commitment to being in this economy. To grow additional investments, we're also developing a systematic, data-driven approach towards engaging with international trade partners, which will ensure that we are focused in our approach to entering bilateral trade agreements and that we realize maximum returns from this. Our focus is to create a strong economy that's friendly to investment, that's conducive for growth, and that's resilient to shocks.
It would be recalled that President Muhammadu Buhari delayed signing the agreement until wide consultations are made.
All right, thank you very much, Jide Onifade, for that background report. Joining us now to discuss the issue in greater detail, would like to welcome Engineer Alwal Ibrahim. Engineer Ibrahim, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Also here with us is Ken Ukoha, is a national president, National Association of Nigerian Traders. He's also a lawyer, by the way. Ken Ukoha, pleasure to have you again on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Kinsley.
Okay.
And from our Lagos studio, we have joining us Billy Gilles Harry, National Vice President, NASIMA. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so very much. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, gentlemen, let's begin this conversation. Almost 4 months ago, President Muhammadu Buhari was virtually on his way to Kigali, Rwanda, to join other African heads of state in, as it were, endorsing the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. And incidentally, we took on this subject to say, look, what are the advantages and disadvantages? What are the hidden issues for us to clearly understand and for stakeholders to also clearly understand? On that occasion, Mr. Ken Ukoha, we had you as a guest. We also had Nigeria's chief trade negotiator for the free trade agreement area. And then the number of issues came up, and suddenly the president said, listen, he was going to withhold his accession, or Nigeria's accession to the agreement, because there needed to be better clarification as well as consultation. Between then and now, what has happened? Ken Ukoha.
Thank you very much, Kinsley, and thank you, Nigerians. I think, for me, between then and now, what has happened is that perhaps more Nigerians have known about the CFTA. Two, courtesy of the consultations that the president insisted must happen. I think the private sector perhaps has become more involved in both understanding the issues and also asking questions. And what I think is going on now could be some level of buy-in that will be demonstrated by the private sector and stakeholders in general. However, I think that what remains is the technical issues, detailing the technical issues within the negotiations. And if you permit me, I will mention a few of them.
Go ahead.
Now, in terms of market access, there's this question that has remained on the table. For instance, how come that the heads of states agreed on 90% liberalization? On what basis, on what criteria was that, agreed? How was it taken? Why was it not 60? Why was it not 50? Why was it not 70? Why 90? In fact, why was it not even 100? Now, the second is the technical issues surrounding the negotiations on rules of origin. If you look at the rules of origin, where is it coming from? Are we going to sign agreement before negotiating the rules of origin? The third is the non-tariff barriers that you need to negotiate. The fourth is the technical barriers to trade. Many more of these things. And if you permit me, the SPS, all of these things would be there as annexes and protocols to the agreement. And some of the things, the reasons why some of us said, no, just hold on a bit. We need to negotiate all of these things because they are part of the dispute settlement, mechanism. At the end of the day, if you frown at them, if if there's a conflict, these things will come back. And therefore, you need to clear all of this. The trade facilitation agenda, the strategies there. And now, the speed as well, the speed of the negotiations, which does not allow space for, for countries to look at country-specific evidence-based, specific studies that will tell you that this is the measure of your movement in this negotiation. This is the level of your opening and liberalization. This is how you navigate. And then sector-specific as well. And all of these and all and all. And I think these are things that we should, get very clear right from the beginning. But it appears that we have succeeded in having consultations. The result of the consultations is that, yes, many people are understanding, are knowing about the CFTA, but the contents, the key issues, the cost and benefits analysis of the CFTA to the ordinary Nigerian. Take, for example, the farmers right there in their rural communities. How does it affect them? The traders that we have in every country in Africa, all Nigerian traders are everywhere in Africa. How does it affect them? How do they take it up?
We'll get to the nitty-gritty of this matter because that's part of what we're here for. But let me go to Engineer Ibrahim first. Nigeria held back signing in March, and now we seem to be having a rethink. What do you think has changed since then?
Yes, what has changed is that, all these discussions, programs, and all the what have you, the micro and small enterprises were not connected with all these things until when the consultation started. We are now, because as it is now, already the micro, small, and small enterprises have been carrying out this cross-border trading. Already our members, you go to the various corridors in the country. I was just back 2 days ago from Maiduguri corridor where I had meeting with our members of micro and small enterprises, already doing cross-border trading to Chad, Cameroon, Niger with Nigerian-made products. But yet, these are all in the informal way. So what has happened now, But the consultation now, we have now seen a way how to integrate our micro, small enterprise who are already doing this cross-border trading, and we are now happy to be integrated by the consultation that has taken place and sensitization. We are now being integrated into these activities because they are doing the informal sector activity trade, but they are not connected with all this discussion. They are not even experts to understand what are the rules of origin, what is the to specific protocol when you are using this big grammar. But millions of naira, hundreds of millions of naira trade is going on in the across various cross-border trading, but yet, so we have seen that the held back that Mr. President has ordered has been able, the consultation has been able now to take in the micro, small enterprises into this discussion, and we are now knowing our level, our role, what the AFCFTA is all for us, and this thing can be done. Nigeria can achieve the actual goal of economic diversification, economic integration, and the real cake baking, which is what is needed, what is the challenge now. So what has happened, if I have answered your question, what has happened during the consultation is that we are now integrated into the discussions. Our people, I just came back 2 days ago from Maiduguri, where I had meeting with the corridor, and I'm going to the other corridors where our members also, the micro, small, and medium enterprises, are doing this cross-border trading. So we are now computing our input into the AFCFTA document, and now we have been carried along. And more important thing that has not been left out in all the discussion is trade in services. The trade in services, all the discussion have been on goods, and but 15 sectors now, for which micro enterprises are playing very key role into it now, have been enacted into the agreement now, the FCA document. So these are the advantages that the discussions.
What are those services?
For example, take educational services, take manufacturing services. It is the lack of this competence in manufacturing services. That is why we are not able to process our raw materials in Nigeria now, because lack of competent fabrication, other manufacturing services that we cannot be able to do it. So this services sector, which gives more than 54% of GDP, is now captured properly into the agreement, and we are now discussing it. So the negotiation, the consultation that has been carried out is now giving our members advantage on this.
All right, thank you very much. Let's pause you there and then return to our guest in Lagos. That's Billy Gibbs-Harry, who is National Vice President of NACIMA. Give us a sense of what NACIMA's understanding is now of the issues, and therefore what his disposition is to the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement.
Well, first of all, NACIMA, under the leadership of Iyalode Alaba-Lawson, in the month of March, set up a committee specific to unravel and understand the AFCFTA issues. In the beginning, our concern was that the private sector was not effectively integrated and consulted. Because at the end of the day, the agreements, the policies, and everything that's contained in it will be undertaken and carried out by the private sector, whether they are manufacturing or they are services providers, or they are just simply movers of goods. That's as we saw in most of the areas we went for this sensitization across the 6 geopolitical areas of Nigeria. NACIMA has since gone over under this leadership to evaluate the opportunities and the benefits of the AFCFTA to Nigeria and to Africa. And for that, the President has endorsed that the agreement should be signed. It should be signed with all the necessary amendments done, especially with a very strong private sector loaded committee to be able to work with the Trade Negotiation Office to ensure that what is missing, which is our domestic, our domestic gaps should be repaired by the government's new policies. So as far as NACIMA is concerned, NACIMA is an amalgam of manufacturers, industrialists, traders, commercial people, small, medium, and even the large multinational companies all form the bulk of the NACIMA membership. NACIMA's position today is that the president of Nigeria should sign the agreement. And in doing so, we must look out for those areas, like Dr. Ken has mentioned, the tariff issues, the technical content of the agreement, that we should be able to ensure that we understand clearly how this impacts on the whole chain, from the farmer to the value-added service provider or manufacturer to the exporter, and ensure that the entire market in Africa is properly assessed by Nigerian businessmen. As you already know, Nigerians are very effective and aggressive businessmen in all areas. I do wish that when policies of this nature are, considered, that such, positive, aggressive attitude of Nigerians should be brought to play. As far as I know, I export services, and I do know that this is going to be one way that some of the services we, as individual companies will provide for Nigeria, for Africa. As Nigerians will be will benefit the most. We are everywhere, just like my colleagues in the studio in Abuja said. We are trading everywhere. We are providing services everywhere. And this will be just an addition of ensuring that the products we have here in Nigeria are no longer discriminated against. We have palm oil that is not being exported, and the same palm oil is being reprocessed and repackaged in another country and exported somewhere else. All of those will now be captured in our trade. So NACIMA's position is that the president of Nigeria should go ahead and sign.
Billy Gill Sahari. Let's return to the studio and Mr. Okwaha. Just like he has said there, his expectation, NACIMA's expectation, is that the president should sign. Nigeria is a vast country, like we all know. We have massive potential in the areas of trade. Now, what do you think will be in this for Nigeria and Nigerian traders and Nigerians if we go ahead and sign this treaty? Would we not have some areas of disadvantage that some smaller countries can key into if we're not careful?
And this is the reason why I think that for people like us and for our organization, the CFTA is one of the best things that have happened to Africa, and more importantly for Nigeria. However, we're saying that negotiations must be done with circumspect. And what is that? Let the technical details be very clear before you sign. You don't just jump. This CFTA has implications for the lives and the livelihoods, as well as the future of the country, the economic future, the development future. And therefore, when we're talking about the technical details, we should have, and I've said this severally, let there be, analysis, evidence-based analysis that show you the cost and the benefits of every detail, every sector in the negotiations. Number two is that there is need for us to look at, there's no time here to look at these things, but there is time for Nigeria to look at the consistency between the CFTA negotiations ongoing and our extant laws. Number three is that Nigeria has a development strategy today in the name of the ERGP, the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. What is the nexus, the linkage, the coherence between the two? We should look at all of these. If not, we will be shooting on our feet. Number four is that there are, you mentioned services sector. Today, the negotiations are going on in the services sector. The trade in goods have not been concluded. They have jumped into services sector, and they have selected 5 sectors. And for the purpose of education, we have 16 sectors in services and about 162 subsectors in services. Now,
What is the criteria for the selection of these 5 sectors that you are negotiating, that you are going to liberalize? And people are negotiating on behalf of Nigeria.
Who are the people?
You know, these are, I mean, African negotiators are negotiating, and Nigeria, you will expect Nigeria to sign in. You know, the president said, let's the negotiations, Nigeria just put a hold on negotiations and come back for consultations. However, the negotiations have been going on at the African level. But then, tomorrow, if we want to sign, we are signing what others have negotiated, particularly on this services sector, that we are not part of. What are the rules? Many of the countries do not have, services strategy. Even in Nigeria, we don't have. We need to undertake a legal audit of the services sector. Nothing has been done. Even at the ECOWAS level, where we belong, there is no services common strategy, common policy on services. You don't find that. So how are you negotiating this?
All right, Engineer Ibrahim, let's have your response to some of the issues that Ken Okoha has raised, with regard to the apparent gaps in terms of knowledge of the technical details and therefore what Nigeria could negotiate for its own benefit.
Yeah, as I tell you, the position of the micro, small, and medium enterprises is that having known how our own position is, Nigeria signing this agreement does not mean that if we sign, we have hung ourselves. Because it's not that, it's something, because of the critical nature of the...
If you sign, you are bound.
No, but what I want to say is, you can now negotiate, you can continue with the negotiation, because if you are going to take so long time, already as I told you, these activities is already going on in the country. Already cross-border trading is happening. Millions of billions of naira trade is being undertaken. And Nigeria, for us, the more, we cannot say we have, to my own understanding, most of the issues he's addressed have been addressed as amendment into the course, the one I know. We have discussed so much of these fears, and this has been incorporated into the law. And it is 15 sectors, services sectors that I know that we are now discussing about it. I don't know whether it is 5. To my knowledge, it's about 15 services sector. So the taking of too much, how much, he did not give time frame for these technical details have been discussed. We have seen that they have been discussed. So to us, delaying the signing is going to make, because Nigeria needs to be moving. It's just like you have to, when you sign the agreement, will not make you will not delay the discussion and the condition that is going on because of. So our own position is continue with the negotiations, because already we have all the issues that have been said. To my knowledge, it has been addressed in the protocol, and this something has been discussed. So that, but we should continue with the discussion, but that should not delay the delay of the signing. Is what is going to make Nigeria to lose more, because there are more advantages, because the fears are not as much as the graves are when we don't sign the agreement. We should continue. So our position is sign, but continue with the discussions and address the issues at the same time simultaneously.
All right, thank you very much. Let's return to Lagos. Baby Gibbs Harry, I would like you to respond to some of the concerns that Ken Okoha has raised here with regard to perhaps, the absence of clear details, technical details that will form part of the agreement, because if you have annexures or if you have protocols and attachments, they all form part of it. Does NASIMA have some deeper insights into some of these issues that Ken Okoha has raised?
Well, it's not just NASIMA. I think the entire private sector that has been consulted across the 6 geopolitical regions clearly understood what is being discussed. First of all, recall that the African Union, AOU as it was at that time, took these decisions on the south of Nigeria, both in Lagos and Abuja. Nigeria has been part of it since 2012. We must never forget that. As far as the issues that has been raised, there shouldn't even be any reason for that, because if you are not in the room, you cannot even discuss. I mean, if I was not here, I would not be able to defend Nasima's position, because I'm a member of the committee that was set up by the president of Nasima to review this particular agreement. Don't forget also that we, as an association from the regional level, had earlier opposed it. But during the course of study, we found out that most of the fears that we've had were addressed in the entire 300 and so pages of document that was already in circulation by everybody who has interest to study what the protocols and the linkages should be. But as in everything, a negotiation only starts. You agree to it and then you fine-tune issues. The fact that we signed the agreement yesterday does not stop us from reviewing from time to time those areas that we think that we must, address. For instance, what is our fear of goods dumping? Nigeria is importing and consuming quite a lot. But most of these products, like Engineer Awala said, found their way back as Nigerian manufactured goods back to Central Africa and thereabout. I personally witnessed some of those trucks that are going out of Nigeria in the eastern, in the northeastern part of Nigeria. So the issues about tariff, the issues about the extant laws that Nigeria has, and also the linkage between the FRGP with AFTA, they are just already founded, because what we are talking about is that trade negotiations from all the African countries gathered together and started the process of negotiating what the values of this trade would be. I mean, this free trade area should be. What should be the content? And of course, the issues of the 90% negotiation that's been done, we can also look at those content as we go on. If you are not in the room, you cannot discuss about those issues. So the more we delay not to sign, the more we allow all the other countries that are already signed, going ahead. Already we have 6 countries that have ratified. And they are moving. As soon as they have 22 and they deposit it, it becomes effective. And Nigeria, whether we signed it or not, will be part of it because we are part of the AU. So the issue of not signing now is we are undoing ourselves much more than signing. So I think we should go ahead and sign, and then we should then look at those details that are consistently, flashing up for attention. The issues of tariff. What are the issues? That is our fear. The issues of the laws of Nigeria, the extant laws of Nigeria that will be there. Of course, that is why you are an African. You must necessarily take that leap as a leader in Nigeria, in Africa, to make those decisions. And come to think about it, when the trade negotiations met in Johannesburg to take a decision on who should lead, they picked Nigeria. And the Nigerian Minister of Trade and Investment and also the Nigerian trade negotiator became the leaders of those secretariats. So what is our fears? We already have our own leaders that have put their foot in the house. And therefore, we should stand the best chance of getting the knowledge and the idea. And I think these are some of the things that have made us, as a large organization, to endorse the AFCTA and encourage the president to sign. While we look at those areas that are difficult to address, for instance, we are talking about power, we are talking about infrastructure. Most of these African countries that have already signed don't have the size of road infrastructure that we have. So what is our fear? We are strong. We are already, set to take over the market and ensure that whatever that we're doing, we don't approach it from the point of fear. We must be courageous. We must be bold. And we must see this as opportunity for the entrepreneurs in Nigeria, manufacturers in Nigeria, to up their game, to be able to, get into the market and show our prowess as Nigerians. This is the point that we're raising. Because there is really nothing, there's no rocket science in studying that document and finding out those protocols that they're already entrenched. The issues of addressing, any fears we raise are already provisioned for there. So there is nothing to fear about. So the more we delay, the more this very fear we have will, belittle us. So I think that all of us as private sector leaders have been talking about this. We have done as much research as possible, and I think that it is time.
Thank you very much for your contribution from Lagos there, Mr. Billy Gills Harry. Now, returning to the studio as we're rounding off, we've been talking about the nitty-gritty of this agreement. How does the free trade agreement work? And this Africa free trade area, how is it going to work, the nitty-gritty of it?
Well, the nitty-gritty of it is that an agreement is going to be signed, but based on negotiations and the principles thereof. 2, the key technical details will now be highlighted, and everybody, every member country, member state is on the table. They have chief negotiators who are looking at the nitty-gritties and then taking decisions based on national positions that will be brought on the table, and that will be harmonized. Now, but my fear is that, take for instance, today, just yesterday, I got a letter from our members in Ghana, Nigerian traders in Ghana, who are saying the the Ghanaian authorities are giving them a quick notice that about 41% of them are in their markets, local markets, and therefore they should leave. So that it's been going on and on and on. Now, my point is this. How do we negotiate in a way that will establish these Nigerian traders right there without anybody pulling them out? Where we have the rights of residents, the protocol on the rights of establishment, and the rights of free movement. If it is not obeyed here within our REC, our Regional Economic Community, ECOWAS, what is the guarantee that we will do that? So therefore, these things must be negotiated principally. All
right. Ken Ukoha, National President, National Association of Nigerian Traders, would like to thank you. Thanks a lot for being around. Of course, trade negotiations are usually long drawn. We also saw what happened with the Uruguay round of negotiations in the 1980s that eventually gave rise to the WTO. I hope that we also know the consequences of our accession to WTO treaty. Ken Ukoha, thanks a lot for being around. Engineer Awal Ibrahim also would like to appreciate you for being with us on Good Morning Nigeria. From Lagos, we'd like to thank Billy Gills Harry, National Vice President NASIMA. Thanks a lot for your thoughts.
Thank you so very much.
All right, it's still Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll be dealing with our third and last topic for conversation this morning. That's on the Great Green Wall.
The Great Green Wall, or the Great Green Wall of the Sahara and the Sahel Initiative, is Africa's flagship initiative to combat the effects of climate change and desertification in line with the objectives of the United Nations to achieve sustainable development. The initiative was developed to harmonize regional strategies for halting desertification, soil degradation, reducing poverty, conserving biodiversity, and increasing land productivity around the Sahara and the Sahel areas. Its aim is to transform the lives of millions of people by creating a great mosaic of green and productive landscapes across North Africa, the Sahel, by planting of wide forested brand composed of mixture of native tree species that would traverse the African continent from Senegal to Djibouti, along the southern limits of the Sahara Desert. The Great Green Wall is believed to be the solution to some of the natural disasters happening in different parts of the world, especially Africa and Nigeria, which has been ravaged by some level of natural disasters such as desert encroachment, flooding, extinction of some wildlife animals, and some other effects of climate change. Nigeria has since keyed into the initiative and has continued to work with local communities to stress the sustainable management and use of forest, rangelands, and other natural resources in drylands, particularly through continuous planting of trees. Despite these efforts, the threat to desert encroachment in Nigeria remains real, and many believe that more needs to be done to avert this impending danger. What are the successes of the Great Green Wall project in Nigeria, and what is standing in the way of its full implementation? These are issues that guests on Good Morning Nigeria will be dealing with shortly.
All right, thank you very much, Oyemi Ajayi, for that background up. Joining us in the studios, we have three guests, and let's have them right away. Ina Moja is our first guest we're introducing. She's a renowned Malian musician and activist, and she's traveling across Africa, recording an album inspired by a Pan-African environmental project, that is the Great Green Wall. Ina Moja, pleasure to have you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me.
This is your first time here?
Yes.
All right, so you are the Nigerian Television Authority. It's Africa's largest television network. All right, also here with us in the studios is Hamsatu Alamin. Hamsatu Alamin is a human rights defender, peace activist, and a member of the Federation of Muslim Women in Nigeria. She's known as the woman who speaks with Boko Haram, but this is not a Boko Haram issue. It's a Great Green Wall, although there might be some nexus. Hajia, pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're also glad to welcome Hamzat Lawal. He is an environmental activist and who has led grassroots campaigns in over 40 African countries on climate change issues. Thank you very much, Hamzat, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's begin with Ina. The Great Green Wall is said to serve as a roadmap for your album, which you traveling across the Sahel, that's to say from the west to the east coast of the continent. Senegal is there, Mali, that's your native country, Nigeria, Niger, and Ethiopia. In particular, with regard to us here in Nigeria, what have you found?
Well, I had the chance to meet amazing people telling us their stories. And the Great Green Wall, as you said, is a roadmap to this journey. But it's really about the people and what they've been experiences, how the changing of climate has impacted their lives and what they're doing to take their destiny into their own hands.
What are the specifics?
Well, we had the chance to meet people from the north of Nigeria, some children from Maiduguri, whose parents were all killed by Boko Haram, and then now they are going to school and getting education and starting again, with hope and a brighter future. And that to me was really impacting. And as a musician, we are storytellers, so these powerful stories of resilience and hope is really that is fueling me to do this journey.
Thank you. And Hamzat, we'll come to you now. Many people have said that this Great Green Wall project is too ambitious. Do you agree with this? Do you think this project can succeed?
Oh, yes, it can succeed. It is ambitious because climate change has affected us. It has affected our source of livelihood. It has affected our environment. Today, every year, we lose 5% of Nigeria's forest cover. If you go to northern Nigeria, back in the days when you go around the Lake Chad region, you see a lot of economic activity. But today you don't see this activity, and these activities were led by young people. But because of the effect of climate change, we don't have that. But the Great Green Wall is that ambitious initiative that would lead to revitalizing this 11 frontline states that would benefit. And most importantly, it's not just about the state, it's about the communities. Over 200 communities, and when you talk about the numbers, we're looking at over 60 million Nigerians who would directly benefit from the Great Green Wall initiative, mostly women and children. But then this also means that a lot of investment would go in infrastructure, creating avenues for access to water, irrigation, and ensuring that maybe for once, these pastoralists, we would get it right by ensuring that we have, sort the problem between farmers and herders. Because it's due to the impact and scarce availability of resources. Now you have people migrating from northern Nigeria down south and west. But the Great Green Wall initiative would bring that hope, that change that we need to see on the ground.
Hamzat, staying with you, it is undoubtedly a laudable initiative, but you will agree with me that there's a great difference between ambition and then the effort itself. Given what's on ground, the massive deforestation going on, the amount of trees that you need to plant before this 2030 targets can be reached. So that's the basis of my question. How do you see this working out?
So since 2010, we've been tracking the implementation, and what we did was to build an innovative map showcasing in real time what are the information coming from the grassroots, people using their mobile phone to send reports. And in the inception phase, 10 billion naira was actually budgeted and released for the Great Green Wall Initiative. And for us, we're trying to understand those funds that have been released, but what is obtainable on the ground, and how, as people taking ownership in the different rural communities. It would interest you to note that for once in Nigeria, we have forest guards, people who their roles and responsibility is to protect the Great Green Wall Initiative. And these are led by young people, but then most importantly, women and children that travels hundreds of kilometers to get water have access to potable water that was installed, solar powered. And then again, you have even their livestock benefiting from it. So as much as it is ambition, we've made some progress, but notwithstanding, we also have a few challenges to meet this target. But so far, Nigeria is on that pathway to ensuring that we achieve the Great Green Wall Initiative.
Hamzat, thank you very much. You did say that for the first time we're having forest guards in Nigeria. Unfortunately, that wouldn't appear to be exactly correct. I come from the rainforest belt in Nigeria, and an uncle of mine used to be a forest guard. He passed away in 1970. But thanks a lot for what you have said. We'll come back to you in the course of the conversation. Let's bring in Hamsatu into the conversation at the moment. Human rights defender, as we did say, the woman who speaks with Boko Haram. Now, there's been some, causative linkage between the crisis that we have seen in the northeast of the country, the farmers and herdsmen clashes, and so on and so forth. Well, is there a sense in which the Great Green Wall, conscientiously and effectively executed, could provide some panacea, as it were, to these conflicts that we're having around the region and indeed other parts of the country?
Oh yes, in fact, the Lake Chad is the major source of, if you like, livelihood around the Chad Basin area. And then the shrinking of the lake is no longer news. And then, in fact, as a result of this shrinking of the lake, in fact, you can link it to the current challenges that are happening in the Northeast related to issue of access to natural resources and then the governance of the natural resources in that region. So therefore, in fact, the main issue now comes to be related to the shrinking of the much more to the challenges around the after effects of the shrinking that brings about conflicts and then tension among different occupational groups like the farmers, the pastoralists, the fishermen, and then the hunters. So as a result, in fact, and then this conflict now also happens between and then among, in fact, the indigenous people who are in these living in these areas, and then the major settler community that come to fluctuate the region in search of livelihood. Now the security challenges of Boko Haram has brought about, in fact, a lot of challenges that people can no longer, in fact, pursue their daily economic life. Hence, in fact, our ecosystem has been devastated, livelihood has been disrupted, and then farmers can no longer, in fact, farm. So therefore, we witness a lot of migration from those areas out. And as a result of the Boko Haram insurgencies, on their way to in the process of this migration, most of the adult men will either be killed or abducted to become fighters. And then their children, boys and girls, and then the women in particular, were abducted and then forced into marriages, sexually violated by both sides of the crisis, and then women, greater percentage of women turning widows, and then orphans, displaced people. So the challenges are just enormous. So the coming of this Great Green Wall project, we believe, honestly, can bring succor to the teeming youth in particular, because youth are the #1 factor. In fact, have now become youth and women have become the heads of families, have become the breadwinners in the society, and then we come to witness that, in fact, a greater percentage of our population has now been secured to become women-led, and in some instances, children-led.
Yeah. Thank you, Hamsato. And Ina, I will come to you. They say music is a language understood by all. How impactful do you think your advocacy through music will be on this project?
Well, I hope that it will bring awareness and shed a light on the stories of the people that we had the chance to meet, and also show what the African Union and the Sahel is doing to change their lives. Because we, as artists, we want to, as African artists, for me it's really important to show another narrative, to show what is really happening here, that we are really the change makers, and we're not waiting on anybody to come and do it for us. So the community is coming together and really working together to change and reverse the impact the negative impact that climate change has on their lives. It's really important to show the world that we are doing something, and through music also show the different cultures. And I'm from the north of Mali, where we have this desert blues, but I believe that it's the base of the music in the Sahel. So going from the west to the east and getting to meet people, for me, and sharing, because music, we don't need to speak the same language, but we just feel it. So for me, it brings people together in the same manner that these communities are coming together.
And the target audience, as well as, can you even let us have a feel of what you do when you do it?
Well, the audience, you mean the people who are going to receive the music?
Yes, who you're targeting.
Everybody.
Okay.
People in Africa, all around the Sahel, and also in the more Western world. I believe that this is an issue, climate change, and what everybody's doing to protect this planet is important. It's something that matters, either is it in Europe, in the US, in Africa. We're all concerned. We're on this planet together.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot. Hamzat spoke earlier about the sense of ownership that is expected to be generated in the various communities. What have you found, again, in the course of your odyssey across the Sahel? Take Mali, for instance, take Senegal or some other country, to say, look, this is the way I have seen people responding to the demands of the Great Green Wall. In other words, are you seeing tree planters? Are you seeing those who are watering the plants? In Mali, for instance, what are you seeing? What are also the changes in the relationship between the persons and their environment?
Well, they realize that this is their community, and what they are planting, it's for their own benefit and the benefit of the area where they're living. Because in Senegal, for instance, in the northern part of Senegal, the soil are so dry that planting has become, farming has become really, really difficult for people who 80% of them are farmers. So the initiative of the Great Green Wall has brought more hope and people coming together and really working for their community. So it's their lives, it's their project. It's not like somebody's telling them do this and do that. They are really taking ownership of it. And also, we know that when you cannot farm and you cannot make a living where you are, you tend to migrate. Either go to big cities in your country or try to flee and go to Europe. So we've met also young migrants coming back from a trip where they decided that they would go to Europe, and hopefully for them they had the chance to come back and tell us the stories that they've been through, because a lot of them don't make it, you know. A lot of people die in the desert, die in the sea, trying to make that journey. And making a livelihood where you come from, where you live, it's really, really important. So people are taking ownership of this.
Okay, thank you very much, Ina Moja. Let's bring in again Hamzat Lawa. Hamzat Lawa, give us a sense, who is planting? Who is watering the plants? You talked about the advent now of forest guards, say in the Sahelian part of the country, but who is planting, who is watering, and then how do we reconcile the Great Green Wall initiative with the continued deforestation in the northern part of the country?
Well, visiting the 11 frontline states, what we find is, first, the Great Green Wall Initiative provides seedlings that are resilient to climatic effects. Then they create a nursery and plant these seedlings. So when the seedlings germinate a bit, they now transfer it to the green belt where the trees are meant to be planted. But who water it? The community members, women and children, because it's not about planting, it's about growing these trees and nurturing them. And for the forest guard, and mind you, it's first time in northern Nigeria to have forest guard. So the forest guard protects these trees. And why they're still cutting down trees in northern Nigeria, particularly because they don't have alternative source to cook. Today we have 3-stone open fire where household leverage on to cook. And usually it's women that go into the forest to cut down trees and use them for firewood. And what we've now seen is innovating and providing alternatives. Today you can use solar-powered stove or the clean cook stove to cook using lesser firewood. So for us, it's about ensuring that we bring more innovative approach in ensuring that beyond having these green belts, we also have other alternatives for women to cook their food.
Thank you, Hamzat. Hamzat, just before we go, how much cooperation are we expecting from the beneficiaries of this? Like Hamzat said now, some people depend on, for example, tree felling for survival. So what amount of cooperation are we expecting from them, especially where there are no alternatives?
It depends on how you sensitize and then take the community along with you in the process. In fact, in a situation where everybody is becoming traumatized and then ecosystem devastated and others, then focused government initiatives to really educate and sensitize people to cooperate will go a long way for them to benefit from the outcome of this project. And therefore, and then it is also even in our interest. The trees are no longer there. If you go out to the forest to seek for them, you can be attacked by Boko Haram, or they caught in crossfire between the security operatives and then the insurgents themselves. So therefore, in fact, when you have challenges in even getting the firewood or even the charcoal itself, what else but to cooperate with whatever alternative that is brought, that is meant for the benefit of the people to save our ecosystem and then advance us economically.
All right, Hamsatu Alamin, human rights and peace activist and also member of the Federation of Muslim Women in Nigeria. I would like to thank you for being part of our discussion this morning.
Thank you.
Hamzat Lawal, also an activist who leads the grassroots campaign in over 14 African countries on climate change matters. Thanks a lot for being on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me.
And last but not least, in Abuja, that's a renowned Malian musician and activist who's traveling across the Sahelian region of the continent, inspired by the Great Green Wall. Thanks a lot, and we look forward to hearing your album.
Thank
so
you
what is the kind of music? Is it jazz? Is it is it jazz? Is it Afrobeat or what?
It's a mix of desert blues, and depending on the countries, I had the chance to work with amazing Nigerian musician Waje. And so it's a fusion between Afrobeat and desert blues.
Desert blues, that's very interesting. So we'll note that and I look forward to it. So that does it for our third topic for conversation this morning. Let's go over now to our complimentary segments and we're taking sports.